it's Chantel from Wild Berry Quilting, and today we're going to be doing some free motion quilting on a domestic machine. Now, before we get started, I thought it would be important to let you guys know kind of what you need to do to set up. Now, I like to have a small book like this one that I'll just practice different designs in, and I'll just kind of draw it out with a pen to get an idea of how my needle would move without having to cut threads and change to a different place. If I can draw it with a pen without lifting my pen, then I can draw it with my needle and thread without having to change threads. And you know, some of these designs are ones that I'm more likely to use than others, but I like to draw them out as I get ideas, or maybe I'll see something that inspires me and I don't want to lose that idea. So this kind of gives me a reference to go back and say, you know, I really need something to put onto this quilt. I need something to quilt onto it. What am I going to do? And when you're drawing a blank, it's really helpful to have something like this that you can reference back to. And then if you leave yourself some space, which you'll see a lot of these have a lot of empty space around them. And the reason for that is so I can go back when I decide to use it on a quilt and then just give myself a little bit of time to practice it again with the pen and kind of become reacquainted with the idea, and before I bring it over to my machine and start trying to quilt it on the machine itself. So in addition to this, if you still aren't confident to begin after trying it with a pen, try cutting out some smaller pieces of fabric and making yourself some placemats, which I'm just going to drop onto the floor here. You can see these are very well-loved placemats that I have just used for practice to practice my free motion quilting, and then I turn it into a placemat, and my kids adore them and they use them all the time, and they are just covered in all kinds of food and stains because they just get tons of use. So if you're still not confident, try cutting out some smaller pieces of fabric that can be turned into placemats later, and practice your designs on that before you actually attempt to do it on your main quilt. All right, let's get to the quilt itself. Okay, before we start the quilt, I should probably show you what it looks like. So this is the backing, and this is a Sarah Watts Fabrics quilt. It was the Florida line, and the back of the quilt I used Florida 2 for. Oh, there go my alphabeties. And I don't think you can really see the design that well from here, but it is maple leaves, which I know may not go the best with this, but my son picked out the fabric and he picked out the design and he likes it, so that's all that matters. All right, so I am going to be doing this design on it. I figure this looks like leaves and oranges and flowers, so that is what I'm going to be using as my quilting design. All right, let's get started. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do is we need to change out our presser foot for the free motion foot. So I like to do that by first taking off the foot And then you're going to have to remove the ankle, which really isn't as difficult as it seems. And you first want to disengage your DDT, I think is what that's called, system, if you have a FAF machine like I do. And what that DDT system is it's just a built-in walking foot. I don't actually like a walking foot, but I do like that DDT system. I think that's very useful. So I'm just going to stick those in there. And then I'm going to put my walking foot on. And you don't want to turn this very hard. I usually turn it to where it just becomes firm, and then I will give it half, just kind of a slight turn with the screwdriver itself. Just so it's firm on there, but you're not pressing it so much to where you're messing anything up, because anytime you're doing any screws on your sewing machine, you can very easily mess it up by cranking that screw too hard. So next I need to go into my settings and just let my sewing machine know that I am going to be using a free motion foot, and that would be the spring free motion foot. And if you do not have quilting gloves, I highly recommend them for free motion quilting, or any kind of anything within the quilting where you're doing the quilting itself. It makes a huge difference. I did not think it would when I first started out, and let me tell you, it has relieved so much strain on my back and my shoulders using the gloves. Everything just glides much easier through. All right, now, try and get this unfolded in my lap so that I can get started. I like to start at a side and then quilt my way onto the quilt itself. Oh, and I almost forgot, I need to lower my presser feet. We don't want those on while we are doing this. We don't want to fight the machine more than what we have to. So now, and you may see a little bit, if you notice, this is just moving around because I do not have my my needle set to down. I want to change that and set my needle to down so it doesn't move around when I stop to take a break. And I do have a little bit of blue popping up. That's because I'm using a bluish purple thread on the bottom. So you can adjust this by adjusting your tension, which, let's see, just need to go up to that. And we'll go down just a smidge and see if that helps. And I'm just going to kind of do a wavy leaf here. You can still see quite a bit of blue showing through. So let's go down. Let's actually go down 2 from there and see if that helps. And as I come up close to these pins, I'm going to remove them. You may notice my safety pins actually look kind of funny because I have added these plastic bits to them, and it just makes it a little bit easier when you are attaching them and basting your quilt. So let's see how this works. So that looks a lot better to me. I'm not seeing the blue, as much of that blue. I might still poke it down just a bit. Keep wanting to push this button instead of this one. But yes, that looks a lot better to me. So I'm going to continue on. And if you notice, all of my leaves are shaped just a little bit differently. Yep, still see some more of that blue than what I want to see. So I'm going to go down a little bit more. But all my leaves are shaped a little bit differently, but that's how nature is. All of your leaves are going to be shaped differently. So now let's do one of those oranges. And you're just going to move around the quilt and readjust as you get further. You're just going to adjust as to what's comfortable. And you can come out anywhere you want. I could come out this direction. I could come out this way. I'm actually going to come out this way because that's where I want to go. Maybe I'll do one of those flowers. I'm going to stop and remove this pin so I don't get too close to him. Don't want to run over a pin. And you don't ever have to worry about, oh my gosh, am I messing up? Is it, this one looks a little funky here on the end, or this one's too pointed. No, you could sit there and pick it apart all day, but at the end of the day, you're going to look at it and it's just going to be a beautiful quilt, and nobody's going to pick out the individual design and say, oh, your leaf is too pointy. That one's too round. You have too many flowers. No. People see the overall design, and that's what really stands out on the quilt, and that's what you're going for. And you can add a leaf anywhere you want. You can add an orange anywhere you want. Maybe I want an orange right there. That's kind of a funky looking orange. I'm going to go over it a second time just to round it out some. As you can see, because it was really funky looking there, but I went over it a second time. That kind of helped round it out and make it a little bit more natural looking. Because hey, oranges have funky shapes to them too sometimes. None of them are perfect. And look at how much of this quilt we already have done. This is a large quilt. It's like 70 something by like 80, I think. Actually, I think it's like 73 by 73, I think is what it was. The next quilt that I have is 80 by 80. Let's just add another little flower here. We'll do the center first, and then we'll kind of come back and do this part around here. And just come back out. Now I'll say anytime that you're going to be stopping, you will find that there will be less interruption in your stitching if you can stop at a point. So see how I'm stopped at the tip of this leaf? The areas where I did not stop at a point, there is definitely more disruption in the stitches. But again, Nobody's going to notice. Just continue on your happy little methodical sewing. Well, that's a funky leaf, isn't it? Let's put a big old orange next to them. Maybe we'll come out with another leaf right next to that orange. Now I will say many of the quilting tutorials that you'll see will tell you to go through and quilt in a grid first before you get started. And there is nothing wrong with doing that. If that is what you want to do and you feel more comfortable with it, absolutely quilt a grid first. But let me tell you, you want to start from the beginning if you are going to do that, because it is very easy for you to come along to a stitched line, and then you end up with it bubbling up, and then you end up with a tuck in your fabric, and you don't want a tuck. That's where you run into trouble, is with those little folds and tucks. They aren't fun to deal with. And this particular one, I have not gone through and done a grid first. I have done that in many of mine, but not this one. Do a little baby orange next to this one. Now, if you notice, I stopped right here instead of at the point, and there's a little bit more disruption. You see a little bit more of the blue thread from underneath poking through. I'm not too worried about that. I don't think it shows that much in person. I'm not sure how much it's showing on the camera, but in person, I don't think it's super visible. So I'm going to just continue on, and I'm going to make my way over this way rather than this way, because it's easier to fill in these edges and not get folds than it is to continue into the middle after you've done all the edges. So I'm going to readjust this, get moving right along. And let me tell you, whenever you're going to be free motion quilting, I highly recommend setting yourself up with many bobbins all ready to go before you get started, because I'm quilting with white on the top. I'm quilting with blue on the bottom. If I have to refill my bobbin, I'm going to have to unthread everything and pretty much start over from the beginning. Not from the beginning, but I'll have to start over from the beginning with threading in order to refill my bobbins. So what I've done is I've gone ahead and I have pre-wound 5 bobbins. And 5 might sound like a lot, but it really isn't. You'll go through those very quickly with free motion quilting. There have been quilts that I've gone through 8 bobbins on, and it definitely depends on how densely quilted you like. to do things. I happen to like things very densely quilted. This is kind of a more laid back, less densely quilted design, and I do like this too. Woo! This is a very wobbly orange. He's got a mind of his own. Let's see, where are we going from here? Sometimes it helps to stop and just kind of trace it out with your finger where you plan to go. I think that looks like a good path to me. I'm going to just do a little doodly leaf here and there as I go, as I make my way around. And I think it's about time for me to add another flower in here. And you'll see these are very basic, simple flowers. There is nothing special about these flowers at all. These are like kindergartner flowers. But at the end of the day, when the quilt's done, they still end up looking surprisingly cute and adorable. So take it easy on yourself. You don't have to do something super elaborate. And curves just flow so much easier out of your needle than a bunch of points. And I will say, this being a maple leaf quilt, I was tempted to quilt maple leaves, but maple leaves have a lot of points, and that constant back and forth on a sharp point is just not as smooth of a motion when you are free motion quilting, and it's easy for me anyways to get carried away and those points just to get away from me. So I prefer softer, more rounded designs, such as these leaves. They're a lot easier to control, and they don't look quite as funky when they get away from you. So off we go on these little orange leaves. They may not be exactly orange leaves, but they're kind of reminiscent of orange leaves. They're close enough in quilting form to call them orange leaves. Let's add an orange in here. So we have quite a bit more quilt left to go. But it's coming along, and this is actually a lot faster to design than when you're going densely quilted. And I apologize if there is kind of a sound there. That's the pins rubbing against the tripod that as I'm trying to adjust the quilt. Hopefully it's not too jarring of a sound. This fabric is just so pretty. I love all of Sarah Watt's fabrics. Funny thing is that video, the last video I did was me going through and talking about that new line from Sarah Watts that I just got, Reading Nook. That's what it was, Reading Nook. And now I'm quilting a Sarah Watts quilt. And I just got done piecing a quilt top for another Sarah Watts quilt, not this one. It's a different one. That one was the one with the fireflies. I think it's actually called Firefly. I could be wrong. But I just went through and finished piecing that yesterday. So now I'm on to doing the quilting for this one. And I'll be quilting that one again soon too. Give him a little leaf there. That sweet little orange needed a leaf, friend. Don't be afraid to stop and readjust. Sometimes I get carried away with stitching too much and then I don't want to readjust because I'm just having so much fun. I want to keep going. But you definitely see a difference in the quality of your work if you will take the time to just stop and adjust your fabric. And do it right. But the important thing is to have fun. So, do another leaf. And another orange. So, I think this is a good place to stop. I'm hoping that you could get a good view of what I was doing and giving you a little bit better view for a while there too. See if you can, really want you to be able to see what I'm doing here. So we'll try going a little bit more so you can see. And just readjust. And let's try another flower along here. Ooh, goodness, look at that wave we've got going on. We want to flatten that out. And out with the pen. make sure I don't have anything folded up underneath here. That's very important whenever you're doing this, is you want to make sure you don't have anything underneath your quilt. You don't want to stitch it together. I have done that before and it is not fun. You will be sitting there picking for quite some time. And don't worry if you end up getting like a great big vein in your leaf like this. See how wide that center is? Honestly, it's fine. It doesn't matter. Like I said before, leaves are all different. And that variety is just a beautiful little handmade touch. We like to see that variety. It adds that special something that you just can't get when you have something automated. Little baby orange right here. Because, hey, sometimes they're small, right? I've got a thread right here from between my seams that's just snuck up on me. Let's see if I've got a pair of little thread nippers to around here somewhere. Oh my goodness. Maybe not. They've gotten up and walked away. I guess I'll come back and get that at the end. Okay guys, so I've run out of bobbin thread and my camera battery, well, I should say the camera just automatically shut off because it only records to 30 minutes. So we are done with this video for now. Okay guys, so that was me free motion quilting, and what do you think? Did you enjoy watching some free motion quilting? Did you learn something today? Would you like to see more videos like this? If so, please let me know in the comments below, and if you'd like to see another type of video, please let me know that as well. Right now, I am waiting on a box to get here from Pink Door Fabrics, and it's not a subscription box, it's a one-time mystery box, but I'm very excited to unbox that for you guys. So hopefully that'll get here sometime today, and I'll be doing a second video, which may come out the next day. Okay, thanks for joining me, and if you'd like to see more videos, please like and subscribe and let me know in the comments. All right, bye.